everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about superlatives in the month of February. My name is Dave Walsh. I'm your host.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about superlatives. Am I reading that right, Dave?
Well, it's better than super laxatives, that's for sure.
Well, those have their uses too.
Yeah.
One thing's for sure that we have super patrons.
Look at you! That's a new one. We do have super patrons, and it's because of all the patrons that we are able to do crazy things like Superlative February, where we have to double or triple up on hosting fees because we put out a show every other day, and a longer show at that, right, Ted?
Our coffee bill is enormous.
Yeah. So, but thank you. If you want to become a patron, you can support us at any level, and we like to do fun stuff, and the link to do that is right here, patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You guys can join, and this year we are up in our swag game, and we're going to be giving away pretty cool swag. I think it's coming together pretty nicely. I actually started it before last year's swag went out, so it's pretty cool. And if you become a patron at the $5 level, between starting in May and up until the swag is released, you get swag, and we'll send it off to you, and life will be good. But even if you subscribe at the $1 level, $1 a month, we love it, and I'm going to put something together for those folks that are at all levels. Everybody at every level is going to get something, I think. It's because of the patrons, like everybody out there. It just makes this show even more awesomer than we have ever had. One of the things that we did new this year for our extravaganza month is that we're giving away APs and swag, and we even have a set of tokens that we're giving away for players, and that's directly related to patrons out there. We're just giving away whatever we can, so we just take the money and try to give it back to the community in a lot of fun ways.
This show is brought to you by listeners like you.
Right. And actually, Joshua reached out to me, and he said you should do something like that. So maybe next year, our February month should be our pledge drive month, where we stop halfway through the show and we start talking about what it means to donate. No, anyway. I feel like that's what I just did. But anyways, I'd like to thank personally all the patrons. We had a couple new ones join because of Superlative February, or maybe not because of Superlative February, maybe despite of Superlative February, but let's give all our patron names in reverse alphabetical order by their pledge name, their name that they pledged under. So it's Vardane, Sean, Scott, Russ, Robert, Reagan, Phil, Peter, Niall, Dominic, Mike, Micah, Matt, Lewis, Kyle, Justin, Joshua, Joseph, Joe, Jason, James, Edmund, David, Daniel, Chris, Carl, Brandon, and Alex. So we've had a whole bunch of new people join, and thank you so much for all the things that you have helped us do. So anyways, let's get talking about Superlative February. At this point, we're in show number 11 of Superlative February, so you probably know at this point that we sent out that huge 12-page survey. We got it back. We're trying to honor the game with with all these superlatives, and how so that you can kind of honor the game and reflect on what it was. We had great success. We had great feedback. We had a huge number of people get back to us, 130, which is way more than I would have ever expected or dreamed of. So that's where we leave it. And in this show, we are knee-deep in the lore sphere, talking about lore allies. Whew. Ted, that was a lot of me talking.
It was, but I liked it.
You liked it. Ted, one of the things that we haven't done is talked about unsung allies. So before we talk about bests and favorites, in terms of like the whole card pool, is there like a utility ally that you kind of have that may not be the best, but just always, makes it, or maybe like a type of ally that just kind of makes it into your deck? It doesn't have to be lore. Could be lore. I don't know.
Strictly utility. Well, I feel like that answer is going to fall into our best and worst. I'll say that one of my favorites that I do.
It doesn't have to be utility. It could be like the unsung hero sort of thing. Maybe somebody like maybe something.
Well, I would say check out our patron episode with Bardane, and you can listen to us eventually get down to the track of singing "Gone Berry Gone."
Oh, that's funny.
Oh man, Gone Berry Gone is up there. He tends to make it in. I tend to tech him into a lot of scenarios that just I like the scenario, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This one's got a lot of high threat locations, so he's gonna go in there. I'll also give a shout out to the Corset ally, Glaowen, because his ability to just exhaust him and draw a card, to pick a player and draw a card, is very, I think it's overlooked a lot of times. I recently started playing with him more, and it's an extra card. Like, you put him on the table, extra card, like every turn, you just get an extra card.
Right. And about Glaowen, I feel like it's not a feel bad when you exhaust him either, because you're not wasting his stats. Like, if you have Gildor out on the table and you exhaust him to look at the top 5 and rearrange and do all that stuff or whatever Gildor does, and then you lose all those stats, that's a little frustrating sometimes. So
yeah, but he's 2 resources, and he's got 2 hit points, so it's very reasonable. Corset ally. Yeah.
For me, I always think that one of the unsung heroes, maybe he's a sung hero, and it doesn't have to be a hero, but is
Gone Berry Gone we know is a sung hero.
Right, we literally sung about him. But I feel like Treebeard just sneaks into just so many of my decks because you just need something, it's just so utilitarian. And one of the things that we didn't do, and one of the shortcomings of this survey, is we didn't talk about neutral cards. So I feel like Treebeard being a neutral card. I once accused Chad Garlinghouse of cheating because he was as a Hobbit deck, and then he put Treebeard in it, or Haldir and put Treebeard in it. But Treebeard's just so good. But I don't know. Like, I feel like he doesn't get a lot of. Maybe he gets a lot of the credit, but maybe
I feel like he gets enough credit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
your deck just becomes better when you put him in, and you can always play him in every single deck.
Right.
So.
And I just think he's just good. If you're not playing with Ally Treebeard, then maybe you need to start doing that. So,
yeah, it's a very strong choice. That is for sure. And neutral. So unless someone is running his hero version, he's gonna go into most decks at minimum like one of.
Oh yeah, and I think we're not also competing, hero versus ally.
No.
Because the ally, like hero Gandalf versus ally Gandalf, like that's a competition, and there's the whole thing about being Gandalf guy and nobody else can run Gandalf, and but both of them are so powerful and do such good things that like that's a real consideration. I think that Hero Treebeard fits into like a couple of builds that are really great and fun to play and all these things, but I think that there's not much competition between Hero Treebeard and Ally Treebeard in terms of their play when you're playing multiplayer. But nonetheless, Hero Treebeard didn't really make it on our
no, we did
our Heroes episode last
Heroes
time.
episode lore hero episode prior to this, and Treebeard didn't really come up on any of our results, but I have a feeling being one of 2 heroes, he's gonna, I think, fall into maybe someone's favorite category where they just like the mechanic of damaging their ents to do things and having these big, strong, statted heroes on the board.
Right.
He's Treebeard. Come on,
he's Treebeard. At least at least my shelves behind me, Ted, these things are made of plastic, not of wood. But these
yeah,
papers,
but there's like plants.
These papers were his friends, though. Those papers were my friends.
Yeah, he knew the trees that made that paper from Nut and Acorn.
From Nut and Acorn. Oh, man. Okay. Well, let's get into the best and favorites. Okay, so in terms of allies for lore. And it's funny because I think I'm looking at the list and yeah, I mean, they're pretty similar, but the counts are way different, if you know what I mean by that. So, Ted, you would like to play Family Feud. I have the hiccups. Excuse me.
Get it out.
Yeah.
Get the Balrog flames out.
Ted, you'd probably want to play Family Feud. So without your competition of Grant being here, it's a little easier.
By default.
Right. But do you want to play
default?
Will you let me host the show, Ted? Will you let me host the show?
Default.
Do you want to play favorite or best Family Feud?
Let's start with best.
Okay, so we'll do best. The other one, the favorites, like I said, it's fairly similar, although there's one, in my opinion, surprising on the favorite that didn't make the best list. So, but best ally, best lore ally, top 5 answers on the board. So, 130 people were asked, what is the best lore ally? And there was a clear favorite, but it wasn't as clear as you think it was. So it wasn't like Elrond at 75 and then the next one. But so go ahead.
All right. I'm going to say Warden of Healing.
Ding, 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 ding. That is the number one answer.
Had to be.
And so Elrond had like 70 some odd votes, or 68 or 75 or something like that. Warden only had 44, so only about a quarter of the people put Warden of Healing as the best ally. And I don't know if that's an indication of the competition that Warden has, or if it's an indication of how, like, that the Warden of Healing isn't as strikingly powerful as some of the other, spheres and some of the allies and things like that. I don't know. But, the Warden of Healing, I think it's pretty well understood that the Warden of Healing is kind of the staple healing card in the game.
It is. The staple healing card is you just run Wardens of Healing.
Right. And it's,
my next guess will be, well, there is now a substitute for it, which is going to be my next guess, which I'm going to say is Eorith.
Yeah, Eorith is not on the list. A couple people said Eorith, but not on the list of best. So that's one strike.
Swing and a miss.
I will say that there's a wide variety of allies on this best list. So I'll give you 3 strikes.
Okay. All right.
And Ted, I don't know if you've noticed this, and so for anybody who's listening to this on the audio side, on the video side, I actually put, I'm putting the survey, right here so that people can see the list. I'm putting it, I'm editing it right in there, so people who's playing along on the video, you guys can see it. So, anyways, Ted, keep going, buddy. You got the number 1. Plus, I just gave you a whole bunch of time to look at Hall of Beorn for.
That is exactly what I'm doing. Shout out to Dan. Thank you for Hall of Beorn. For a widely used player resource.
And there's a blog. There's a blog there too. So, old time joke.
Yeah. No, excellent blog where he posts alt art decks. A lot of neat things he does on there. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. All right, I guess I'll go to the other kind of obvious answer. I'm going to say Furial.
That's number 2 on the list. But so that's 20. 20 people said Furial. And I don't know if that's because a lot of people haven't played Furial because they don't own her, or if they're just not in love
They
with
could
a
be
5 cost
shied
ally. You know?
away by her cost,
Right.
and maybe not thinking about ways to get her into play for free, like with like an Elf Stone or Villia or something.
Right, or
like
timely
that.
aid, things like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, but Furial is maybe even the best target for
Messenger of the
Messenger
King
of the
contract.
King. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
she's so good as an ally that she makes a super good hero.
I know she does. Quest for 3, be able to just cancel shadow effects, or not shadow, cancel cards.
She is immensely strong so she gets worse higher player counts, and she's immensely strong at solo.
Right.
Because you get to look at the one card you're gonna do in solo, and you can just decide if you want to do it or not.
Right. Yep. And if it's Surge, you just automatically get rid of that card. Like,
yeah, there's very I can't think of any good reasons why you'd keep a Surge card. Maybe if you're also playing Lanwin as a hero.
Yeah.
Or
you have the Minas Tirith Lamprite out.
Yeah.
No.
There's reasons, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
Kind of corner case stuff.
Okay. So those are the top 2. And now we get into the bottom, not the bottom 3, but the next 3. And again, I think that they're worthy of being on the list. I just think that, I mean, it's just a wide variety. And I think we talked about this like last show, that lore just does so many tricksy things, and like lore is fun to play because it does all the card draw stuff, and it does all the healing stuff, and it does this scrying the encounter deck stuff that Furial does. Like, there's all sorts of fun things that lore does that a lot of the other spheres don't. So
yeah.
So the next 3 are tied actually with 7 people. So it's not like it was again a runaway, but
okay.
So go ahead.
All right. I'll throw in, and I'm going to say. I feel like people love Hobbit, so Gaffer Gamgee's probably on there.
Ooh, Gaffer should be on there, but Gaffer is not on the list.
Because
a couple of people
best goes, well, I guess as far as best goes, he's not widely the best. So he's probably going to actually fall into our favorites. Because the ability is not, you have to be playing the low threat kind of deck strategy, which you don't have to be Hobbits to doing it, but you have to be playing low threat.
Right. Yep.
But his ability is strong.
Right.
I have to reusable feint, essentially.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the actual results here, and I'm looking for Gaffer, and nobody said Gaffer.
Okay, well, that's Gaffer 2 strikes on me.
2 strikes. Okay, the next strike and you're out. We'll have to go over to the other family. Da-na-na.
In that case, I'm going to go with the strongest pick I can and say Bob. No.
Bob. Hero or ally?
Oh,
I know that we're
ally, right?
I was gonna say, I know that we're talking about allies, but it's like, talk about real strong. Well, he counts for 2 allies, right? Didn't we say that if we were going to do a very good tail, that we should Bomber ally should
count for 2? Yeah, for very good tail. I'd house rule that. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go with Quick Beam.
Oh yeah, he's on the list. I put him at number 5 because of alphabet, but that's fine.
He's 3 attack and 2 willpower for his cost.
For 2 that you can ready right away, just for giving him a damage.
Like, I think for a lot of players that play solo, he's a big key because he's a cheap 3 attack ally.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, you have one good attack hero like maybe Halden or Haldir, right? And then you play Quick Beam, and now you're up to 6 attack.
Right.
You have 2 good attackers. Like, he's a strong attacker as like a hero.
Right. And that's the thing. And you can bring him out first turn usually when you're playing him, you know, because you have 2 lore heroes. I mean, you don't have to, but yeah. So and he can soak archery. You can defend for 2. You don't have a problem just defending and getting rid of those stats. Like it's crazy. So yeah, Quick Beam. I think again, Quick Beam deserves to be on that list. So
yeah. As far as best goes, Gildor and Glorian might be on that list. I'm gonna guess.
Gildor and Glorian is not on the list.
Again, he's expensive, and I think people are gonna prefer to pay for Ethereal, but a 3 willpower ally is strong.
Yep, but that's your third strike.
That's it.
Okay.
We need some price. Yeah.
Right.
All right, I did pretty good. I got 3.
You got 3 of the 5, so you're back to your Grant days back.
Yeah.
You know, when Grant was doing this, Grant was always good because he always like comes up with the ones that, because he just has a different play style than you, so he knows all the other stuff that you don't. So, so the other 2 that you didn't mention, one was core set, Scrying, Henemarth, River Song.
Oh, he is quite strong. Again, much like Furial, very strong in solo.
And I think, again, playing... Right, I was just going to reemphasize that. Playing solo, Henemarth is great for 1 cost. Yeah. And he's got 1 willpower, but whoever uses him for his 1 willpower, you know? And the other one is another, like, grease the wheels of the deck is Master the Forge.
Oh, I could see that as well. Much to the effects of Glaewin, Master the Forge will, depending how your deck is constructed, draw you an extra card every turn. And it can specifically narrow down to attachments, and then it can even specifically be the one of your choice if it's in the top 5.
Right.
He makes Rings of Power for me all the time.
Right.
You know, I could sure use a Nenya, and Master the Forge is like, here you go.
Here it is. Thanks. Right. That's awesome. So there is some overlap with the favorite and best. And Ted, we've talked about how this overlap happens. You know, a lot of people think that, you know, the best cards are their favorites or their favorites are the best, and that's fine. So I will say that the Warden of Healing is number 1 on the list and Furial's number 2 on the list. So, but can you name the next 3? And I'm not saying that they overlap or not. So, you know, I'm just saying that the next 3 on the list are...
Okay.
Particularly 5 is... let me say
right.
two... I can't say anything.
Okay, let me take a stab. I'm going to change some of my
favorite.
Inner Dave, and I'm going to go with Galathram Minstrel.
Galathram Minstrel. There was people who said Galathram Minstrel, but it was like 2 or 3, so I didn't put them on the list.
Okay. Because Galathram Minstrel, it's got that similar... It's not every turn like Master of the Fort, but if you're in a deck where you need to draw events that they're key to your strategy, a Minstrel's a great way to go, because it's a scry, top 5.
Yep.
So I would say I thought maybe people would love to play that effect. All right, Merkwood Explorer.
People said the Merkwood Explorer, too. The Merkwood Explorer is really an interesting choice. It's not on the list, but Merkwood Explorer, every time you quest successfully, you put a progress token on him, and then you can exhaust him to bomb a location. So it's like, it's pretty cool. You can... Let me make sure that I explain what that does. You exhaust the Merkwood Explorer, and then you get to put all the progress tokens that he has accumulated onto one location.
Yep.
Which is really nice, even in, like, Nightmare. Because if you get a Merkwood Explorer out early, and then you have some Nightmare locations that are 6, 7... There's even the one in Anduin that's, like, 10 threat. You know, like, it's possible that you take care of those locations pretty straightforwardly, you know, with 1 or 2 Merkwood Explorers. But that didn't make the list, Ted.
I'm striking out.
Think back to let's go back to the best then. Some of them are the best.
Well, you already said that some of them overlapped, right? Like and Warden, right? Yeah.
Right. Some that are left overlap. There's still more overlap.
Quick Beam?
Quick Beam is 3rd. So it's 3rd. So, I mean, Warden had 16 votes for favorite, Furial had 14 votes for favorite, and Quick Beam had 12 votes for favorite. Like, they were all just right there, you know?
Yeah. Okay. It is. It's fun to crush stuff. You're like, boom, 3 attack,
I know.
crush you.
Right.
For 2. Feels good.
Yep.
Okay, I'll take one more shot. It is gonna be tough. I'm gonna go with Welling Hall Preserver.
What? How did you get that? Ted Bannock!
Is it on there?
Yes! I had no idea. I'm so sorry that I screamed in your ear. Holy cow, I cannot believe it. It was number 5 on the list of favorite allies. I mean, I like the Welling Hall Preserver. I like it. It's got conditional healing, heal 1 on an end. It's got great willpower. I usually use it as a willpower boost because it's got 3 willpower, but for people to think it's his favorite, I cannot imagine that had 6 people. Plus, when I'm building decks, it seems like I'm always building decks that, don't really work very well. I don't know. So if I like Welling Hall Preserver, it's probably not a very good card. So, anyways.
Yeah, just I could see people like Ents and the Preserver. It's a strong card. The Ent's slowness can hinder you in certain scenarios, but with 3 willpower on one, I mean that's hero level willpower, and on top of it, it's such a good archery soak card because you can just stack it on its, I think, 3 hit points it's got.
Yep.
And then it can just heal itself, and if you have Elrond somewhere on the table, it can heal for 2 a turn. So every turn it can just soak 2 archery at the minimum 1. And it's going to heal it all on its own. So it's a very efficient card, and that triggers off at readying, which it's going to do because you're going to quest with it.
Right.
Because it's got high willpower, and even still, it's got 2 attack. Also, if you really need some other stats.
It's wild. I can't believe that you said that, and it was right. I was going back to the tactics show where you were like, booming Ent.
That's why I did it. I was going to name another Ent card.
I know.
I almost said I was going to be like Wandering Ent, but I went with Welling Hall Preserver instead.
Yeah. That's wild. Great job, Ted.
Yes.
You just won Superlative February.
I did it. What's my prize?
You get the new fellowship kit, the 2020 fellowship kit that they just released.
Oh man, that'd be fragging sweet. I was just looking at that.
Oh, it would be pretty sweet. The other one that's on the list that was number 4 was Hennemarth. Hennemarth, a lot of people like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see. Of course, he's inexpensive too. So throwing in 1 or 2 copies, even if you're just running 1 lore hero, the cheap cards, you can always play them the turn you get them. And he's a cheap lore ally, and if you lose him or chump him, you're like, he only cost me 1 resource. So right. you don't miss him too bad when he goes.
Yep. Well, as we continue through the survey, every week we also talked about special cards in the card pool and people building decks around those special cards. And so we talked about side quests, and we talked about master cards, and we talked about the One Ring, and I'm sorry, that is master cards. And then we talk about contracts, favorite contracts. We have one last one, and I'm a little sad that Grant isn't with us tonight, but we're talking about guarded cards.
My favorite.
Yes.
I'm super excited to talk about them.
Yes, I'm sure. And you probably know these in and out. Now, to contrast Ted, we joke around that Ted does use guarded cards right in that, right in his, Burglar's Turn deck. But I use guarded cards even more than that. I really love using the guarded cards. I think they're fun, and I don't know. But Ted doesn't like them so much. So, Ted, I asked this question just for you. You ready? How do you feel about guarded cards? So the answers were, they're great, meh, and I won't use them. So how many people said that they won't use them?
I'm gonna go. Okay, it's probably lower than I think it is, and we have 130 responses, and I'm gonna
Right.
say probably. I'm gonna say something like 30.
No. Ted? 4.
4.
4 people said that they wouldn't use guarded cards. How do you feel about that? Just talk very briefly, because I don't want to, belabor a point that we've made on the show a million times. But just talk to us a little bit about what your hang-up is about guarded cards.
So guarded cards are great. They're very strong. I'll just have to. Grant has made the point before where it's a matter of you just have to strategically play them, and not doing that can really hurt you. If you played a turn sooner when you're not ready, you can spawn a location that's going to increase the threat in your staging area or have some other bad effect, some passive effect, or you can just spawn a big enemy, right? You're like, okay, hopefully I get the weakest goblin in the deck. Nope, it's a troll. It's got 12 hit points.
Right.
This is gonna take me a little while to chip away at, even if you're playing Bilbo or have some other tricks or high attack in your deck.
Right.
So I think it's just because that even though they're fine to play, sometimes I've seen people just like misplay them, like throw this out, and I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe now's not the best time to play this card.
Yeah. Well, because you have to play it during the planning phase, and so when you're playing it during the planning, you don't always have to play it during. Most of the time, you play it during the planning phase, right. And so it's hard to know what is going to come out in the next staging step or the next quest phase. So it's it is what it is.
Yeah, and the thing with guarded versus doomed, Doom player cards, you know what you're getting. You're trading that whatever the threat amount is for whatever the effect of the card is. Deep knowledge. Doom 2 to draw 2. You can discuss that with the group and just decide, or if you're solo, you're like, okay, I put this in my deck because I have a low starting threat and this is free extra cards.
Right.
But with a guarded card, you don't know what you're going to get. It's a box of chocolates from the encounter deck.
It is.
You don't know. You're like, is it going to be this location that does nothing and is a tasty caramel filling chocolate, or is it going to be this like disgusting? I'm trying to think of a disgusting chocolate, but I can't because it's all so delicious. But something really bad. You're like, oh, that's terrible. So that's just my general thought, even though I know you enjoy to play them much more often than I do.
Yep. And I like Tactics Bilbo. He's like one of my favorites. So one of our patrons, Matt Kell, is out there. So Matt, a little shout out to you because I know that you love Tactics Bilbo and I love Tactics Bilbo. So we've been going back and forth about guarded cards and staying and things like that. So, but Ted, here we go. What are the top 2 guarded cards? Just
top 2 guarded cards.
Let me just go down the list for the listeners. And we have done on Card Talk, on our regular episodes, we have done all the guarded cards. Plus we've done the King's Return, which fetches a guarded card. And plus we did Tactics Bilbo. They're all in a playlist on YouTube you can listen to. Our guarded cards thing. But so there's 9 guarded cards. There's the Necklace of Gurion, Glamdring, Orcrist, the Arkenstone, Sting, the Ring of Thror, Mithril Shirt, Durin's Axe, and the Stone of Elosterion. Sorry. Durin's Axe and the Stone of Elosterion were just released in the most recent cycle. So the other 7 were part of the Arid Mithrin cycle. But Ted, you love these things, so what's the top 2 here?
I'm going to go with Glamdring.
Glamdring is 3rd on the list.
Oh, no. It's Kendall Sword, dude.
I know. Thematically.
And on top of it, it's strong, right? Like, it's 2 attack in lore, and it gives you card draw with unlimited.
I know, unlimited
amount of times you can
potential.
ready to kill things.
Right. Yep.
So I thought that would have been up there, considering the community's response. Next guess is going to be
number 3, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty close. Okay, I'm going to go with the Necklace of Girion then.
The Necklace of Girion is number 2. So
now I'm creeping up there.
I like the Necklace of Girion is like I like to put the Necklace of Girion on Frodo, on leadership.
Because he
Frodo.
likes to look pretty?
Yes, because he loves Girion. No, the Necklace of Girion goes well on leadership Frodo because you get that extra resource, and you're usually using Frodo to quest anyways because of his ability. So, and then that extra resource allows you to just trigger the threat lower. So,
yeah. Well, really, any hero that has a resource spend effect, right? So you got core set leadership Aragorn.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Gildor and Glorian can pay a resource to draw a card for somebody.
Right.
So there are several heroes that have lore Glorfindel. Just another example.
Yeah,
right?
No.
Lots of ways to use that resource.
There's plenty of resource, like spend a resource to do a thing.
Yes.
So, yep. So that was number 2. So what's number 1?
Number 1.
And I agree. I think the community got it right too.
Okay. Well, then that means it has to be Sting.
Nope. Sting is way down on the list.
Okay.
Matt, sorry, Matt and I both love Sting, so it's way down on the list. But so it's very utilitarian. So
okay.
Which one is it?
Give us the big reveal. I got too many strikes.
Oh, okay. It's the Stone of Elastirion.
Oh, yeah, because an extra card, because you always need willpower and you always need cards.
Yeah, the 2 willpower card draw. Remember we did that card draw, or we did that, what's your favorite mechanic, or what do you consider most when you build, when you build a deck besides, your heroes or sphere matching, and everybody was like card draw. Not everybody, but the most common response was card draw. Everybody was like card draw. So, the Stone of Elastirion makes anybody lore Bilbo, including Tactics Bilbo.
Yeah, it's the guarded card that I'm most prone. So I'm most prone to play the Mithril shirt and the stone because they're guarded specifically by location, so you have a better chance of knowing what you're going to get.
Right.
And I agree. I think the stone, plus the stone's pretty cool. I mean, they're all great iconic cards. Like, it's awesome that Orccrest and Glamdring are in the game, and they should be big, powerful things, but they shouldn't just be like free things either.
Right.
Or they could have had like an insane cost, like Glamdring cost 4, but I don't think that would be fitting either.
Right. I think it's just so thematic that it's guarded by a thing, because they're so unique. To have that unique mechanic, I agree.
Yeah, so I think they're very well designed, and I'm super happy they're in the card pool. But the stone's got a cool theme. It's a cool item, right? It's like, oh man, this is like a Palantir, right? This is a seeing stone.
Yeah.
And yeah, the extra card and willpower, and plus lore has a couple location control things to help you obtain it. So that one too is the most. You very likely have the most way to obtain that particular guarded card by doing some trick or something,
right,
to get it. Or get it sooner.
Yeah. As we move along here, there was a couple of questions on the survey that I asked that there was just so many different responses because it was open-ended. Almost every question, I didn't give people choices. It was just like, tell me what this is, right? And so these are the questions here as we were in the last week of Superlative February that I think that are interesting, but there wasn't any sort of clear, definitive answer, right? And so there was one, but I don't know. We'll go through it. So it's just what it is Ted and I we'll go through the question. We'll talk a little bit about what our favorites and least favorites are, and then we'll end it there. But Ted, I was talking about encounter deck mechanics because this week, kind of the extra thing that we're talking about is kind of like cycles and encounter decks and scenarios and things like that. So I asked people what their favorite encounter deck mechanic was. So like when you think of kind of the iconic encounter deck mechanic that I was thinking of is Surge, right? It's only the encounter deck that does it. So that's a mechanic that the encounter deck does to kind of catch up for the player or overtake the player, and so when you think about encounter deck mechanics, that was one of those that I was thinking of.
To me, keywords. A lot of times I consider are mechanics like sailing and time and surge and doom,
right?
Those types of things.
Yeah. Like things that cause you to have to do something, So, so Ted, what is your favorite? I mean, I know that it's hard to put your mind in the in the seat of Sauron, but what's your favorite encounter deck mechanic?
They're all terrible. They're all terrible things that prevent me from winning.
And I think let me just stop you there, because I'm glad that you said that, because when I say what's your favorite, people could be like, their favorite could be the one that is the worst, and that makes it the game the most challenging. Or people could be like, I like this one that's really easy, like the ones that help me, like what is that in the passage from Merkwood, like the Forest Gate or whatever that allows you to draw a card or something, and so it was so open-ended that there's just, if 115 people gave me a response, I had 114 different answers. So anyways.
Yeah. I'd say as far as encounter deck mechanics go, yeah, I can definitely think of ones that I hate, and they're not my favorite because they're just they're not fun. They're just annoying.
Yeah, the next question that I have is the least favorite encounter deck mechanic.
Yeah, so I got an answer for that. As far as most fun goes, sailing is kind of a fun mechanic. It's only in a handful of quests in the Dream Chaser cycle, but it's something that's very doable and makes you think and play a little bit differently. With your decks have to be heavy on allies or readying effects, especially.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it kind of puts you in a little different mindset when you deck build.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
To give you some of the community responses, there was the Uncharted mechanic. So that was
also from Dream Chaser cycle.
Yep, and
with exploring the island. Yeah.
Yep. Somebody said guarded. I bring that up on purpose. A couple people said guarded. Sailing, like you said. Somebody said locations. The resurrected dead in the Dread Realm. That's reanimated dead things. People said Surge. I don't know why they said Surge, other than maybe I know that it's iconic, I guess is what I'll say. So maybe that's what it is. Archery, the Nightfall Daybreak from Wastes of Eriador, that was good. Villagers, there's a couple of scenarios where you're doing stuff with towns and villagers and rescuing people, so that's kind of fun. So that's good. So Ted, what's your least favorite encounter deck mechanic?
Do you have a favorite one?
Do I have a favorite one? You know what I'm going to say? While I don't think it's necessarily fun, one of my favorite ones is it's always interesting when you pull off a side quest. Like the idea of that and the way that it hits my head, like in terms of the game. Like you're trying to do this, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do this, and then all of a sudden a side quest pops off, and you're like, oh, like I don't have to continue toward the goal, I can do this other thing over here. And I'm talking about like even, I guess the Dread Realm has all the side quests, like Waste, the Across the Ettenmoors, with where the side quests are being guarded by locations and they're safe locations and all this. Mm-hmm. Like that side quest thing is really neat for me because it's like a diversion in the game. And I like that. I don't necessarily love the side quests. I actually really despise the actual side quests themselves. But but I love that mechanic and what it does for kind of the narrative that's going on in my own head about the game. I guess that's what I'm saying.
We're already getting crushed, and then Seal the Tomb comes out, and you're like, F, I gotta go seal the effing tomb.
Right. Something like that. Wasted. What's the one? There's the one like make camp, like.
Oh, yeah, make camp. You're like, okay, it's fine. I'm just going to draw my warden, and we're going to be, we got to make camp.
Right. You can't heal, and so it's, and I actually love it when they come off as shadow cards. Like that's one of my feel goods that just, I can't, I'm like, good, I don't have to do it. I wish that the side quests didn't have Surge on them, but whatever.
Not all of them do, but there's a
lot
big
of them are
chunk of them that do.
I know. A lot of them are Surgy side quests. It drives me nuts. So, in terms of the least favorite, I'll go right into it, Ted. I'll say
go ahead.
Myself is that, and we talked about it the last episode, and it's just happenstance that we talked about it, but it's the time mechanic. That time mechanic, to me, I think the reason why I don't like it, and it's my least favorite mechanic, is because it was so heavy-handed in that cycle. If only half the quest cards had time, where you felt the pressure, like, of having to get through the quest, like, in a certain amount of time, like, that would be really good for me. But the every quest in that cycle had a time mechanic that just really gave it. And that's actually 16 of the people in the community said that was their least favorite mechanic.
Yeah.
I have another one, but it's only in one quest, so I don't know if I call it a mechanic or if I call it the theme. But it's the riddle mechanic. That is actually my least favorite scenario in the whole game, is the one with riddles. And so, like, but it's the riddle mechanic, but it's only found in one scenario at one time. So, I know that it's a mechanic, but I can't really, like, when I say side quests are found all over the place. Time is found all over the place, not just in that cycle, but other things have had time beyond that too. So, it's hard for me to say that riddles is it was just a scenario that missed for me, I guess.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be what my answer is, along the same lines of.
Yeah.
I remember one that I particularly don't like is the mechanic that's in Beneath the Sands, the like whole on track. And that's just really, it's kind of borderline of like the objective and how the whole scenario plays, but how that mechanic generally works is you have that on track objective card and you're looking at a certain number of cards based on the track value of the location. And then you're looking to see if the cards you're scrying from the encounter deck either say off track or on track. And the whole complete, even though I like sailing, right? And this is very similar because sailing, you're looking for icons. I feel like you have way more control over sailing because eventually you get more and more characters on the board. You can start sailing for higher numbers, and the on track mechanic, like, is limited to what's ever on the locations in play. And you could just, in theory, be run, like, you could just never, like, we'll just infinitely be on track. You could just never hit it with the randomness. So the really, really random mechanics kind of bother me that you have little control over.
Yeah, and that gets into my, I guess, what I was saying about the riddle mechanic, right? Like, it's just so random. You can't do. It's so hard to do anything.
Well, you have to build a specific deck to just beat riddles.
Right.
You can build very specific decks that'll answer the riddle every single time. You're like, when a whole deck is 2-cost lore tactic or lore allies,
Right.
done.
Yeah, and
you will always be correct.
And I don't like doing that, so that's that's the way that works itself out for me.
But part of those things are like in those specific scenarios, but
right.
Yeah, I mean,
so
what they are.
So the last question I asked that we'll do for this episode was, what's the worst treachery in the game? And again, I had a lot of answers, except there was one answer that was mentioned more than any other. So I'll go down through some of the other ones, like that were mentioned, but not, wouldn't have made the list.
Okay.
So, like
the honorable mention, the run-ups.
Yeah, like Necromancer's Reach, right? I feel like that's a core set iconic card that, like, you realize that this game is going to really be a challenge, right? Like, oh, that's 1 damage to all my exhausted characters, but all my characters are... you start crying. Right? Power of Mordor, that's a more recent card, but it's fine. Sudden Pitfall is one. A lot of people, not a lot of people, a couple people put like...
Oh, God. Sudden Pitfall is so terrible.
Yeah. Right. If it's your first encounter card that you draw, then you might as well just stop, right? Because what does it say? It says discard... I could pull it up, but doesn't it say discard a questing character?
Yeah, so I think it's the first player has to discard a questing character. So if you're only going with heroes, if you only quested with a hero and not at least one ally, your hero's dead. And it can't be canceled. Oh, and it can't be canceled.
Right.
If you could test to will that or use Eleanor, it'd be fine, but you can't.
Right. So
the One Ring doesn't even have power, right? Because like
because it just
the One Ring has that neutral event that cancels and redraws, I think.
Right.
People are screaming it into their listening devices.
It's the other one.
The Master Ring?
The Master Ring. That's it.
It is the Master Ring.
Yep.
Exhaust the One Ring to raise your threat by 1 to cancel the effects of an encounter card.
Nope. That one doesn't work. Now I'm curious how to stop this thing.
You can't. That's its whole point. The text says you can't stop this. Dun 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 dun.
Okay.
Can't stop this.
You can't. Okay, because even the Hobbit, the Black Rider's Frodo.
Oh, he could, but those 2 cards will never interact with each other.
No, they'll never, because you only can play them in the. But it's not. It just says cancel the effect of an encounter card just revealed.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't say. It doesn't say put that card into the deck without doing the when revealed.
It's just a giant like FU from the encounter deck. Like, do this terrible thing, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Right. That's exactly right. So the question then becomes, what is the worst treachery in the game?
There's a couple that I certainly have contempt for.
Right.
So one that's really, really bad is Lost Companion.
Yep, that was mentioned in the list of ones that are there. Lost Companion.
So that one's in the Heirs of Numenor cycle. It's when revealed, each player removes a character he controls from the quest if able. And then if any single player has no characters committed, you remove all characters from the quest.
Committed. Right.
So that means your threat. That means no one's questing. And if you have 10 threat in the staging area, everybody's threat goes up by 10.
Right. You just took a Doom 10. I guess the thematic part of that is that the one that was removed got lost, and then the other people that were questing have to go find him.
Right.
So that's the.
But if you have at least 2, if you have enough people questing, you're like, someone's got lost, and you're like, we got enough other people lying. It's fine. We lost one person. It's cool.
Yep. So that made it on the list, but is not the biggest grump.
Okay. There's another one that I think stands out. I want to say it's.
Yep, it's that one.
There is. Oh man, no. There's one from the Kaza Doom cycle.
Right.
It's Orc Ambush. Yes, Orc Ambush.
Oh, that's the one that we were talking about with the end comes, right? Like, that's why.
Yes. So Orc Ambush is a surge. When revealed, all orc enemies in the staging area engage the first player. And that, it can be bad, but it might be okay. However, if there are no orc enemies in the staging area, you return all orc enemies in the encounter discard pile to the staging area if able. So I've had this card come out near the end of the game where the deck has not reshuffled, so you've killed 8 orc enemies. And then you're later in the game, so your threat's high. So this card will just put 8 enemies into play. It put 8 enemies into play.
Right. Yep.
And then I still had to do 2 more cards. That was a 2-player game, right? It surges, and you're like, okay, and now 2 more cards.
Right. Which could be enemies, and now you have 10 enemies, and, that's horrible.
You're like, so treachery cards that cause you to just lose, they can just cause an instant
Right.
loss.
Actually, that's what somebody said. They said the worst treachery is anyone that caused, like, an instant loss.
Right.
Like, that's the thing, right? Like, it just is, I don't know.
So that's for sure a couple of mine.
So Master's Malice was pretty close up there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that, you have to pick a sphere, and then, if whatever other spheres, you have to, like, kill off all the others. No, it's not quite that bad, but...
Yeah, so you name a sphere, and then every sphere, every character that belongs to a sphere that you didn't name suffers 3 damage. So if you name leadership, all of your non-leadership characters that you control take 3 damage. So you can completely avoid that card by running a mono deck.
Right.
If you have 100% more heroes and allies, you're fine.
Right.
But if you don't, they're probably dead because 3 damage is a lot.
Right. But the one that is the biggest is Sleeping Sentry.
Oh my God, Sleeping Sentry. See, in Kaza Doom on our last show or other show that we did talked about how people loved Kaza Doom, it had some of the worst, I think, design treacheries in the game.
I know.
The Sleeping Sentry will just end the game.
And it's funny because I don't know what's worse. Sleeping Sentry as a treachery, or Sleeping Sentry as a shadow card.
Would you like to read that one for our audience?
So the Sleeping Sentry, when revealed, is deal 1 damage to each exhausted character, then exhaust all ready characters. So that's tough. So you have to have readying for this to pop off. And you can maybe work around it now with a broader card pool, but the shadow says defending player must discard all exhausted characters he controls.
Are you kidding me? So that includes your defender.
That includes your defender unless you decided to ready him or her during the, with an unexpected
in the
card.
action window.
Right.
So you could defend with Tactics Boromir, and his ability immediately after you declare him as a defender, as an action, you can raise his threat by 1 to ready him, and then he's ready and defending the attack.
Right. But this could also then pop off as Ted, you have Sentinel defended, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you the defending player, or I'm the defending player, right? So with
Yes,
the Sentinel,
so
let's make
say-
sure we clear the air here. Rules, right?
Yep.
So if you Sentinel defend for me, I'm still the defending player. But why would you have to Sentinel defend for me? It's because I don't have any way to defend it. Probably because all my heroes and all my characters are exhausted. Right?
Yes. So it's a scenario that I'm Sentinel defending for you. you're probably losing you're just out of the game because all of your characters are instantly discarded.
Yep. So this is the double whammy in terms of it being just a horrible card.
Yeah, you need to run, if you're playing that scenario, you need to run Eleanor or Balin is good, because then you have Erkenbrand, you have innate ways to cancel shadow effects or treacheries, on top of probably being able to get, run Test of Wills, Dwarven Tombs to recycle. But those 3 heroes are really strong against that card, because they can just be like, no, I'm going to stop this card right away.
Right. So,
from ending the game.
From ending the game.
And I think those 2 cards are in the same scenario.
What, Rivendell or which one? Sleeping Sentry and...
Yeah, or I know they might not be, but...
what
like
2 cards?
Close.
Tell me what 2 cards.
Sleeping Sentry.
And?
Sleeping Sentry is in Road to Rivendell.
Right.
And then Orc Ambush?
Oh, is in Road to Rivendell, yes. When you said those 2 cards, because we talked about 100 cards, so I was wondering what the other card it is that you were thinking of.
I think 2 of the worst treacheries are in the same scenario.
Right. Yep. It's beautiful, isn't it?
The game's fun. It's why we play it.
Don't you love this game? Right. I love talking about this game. Oh, anyways, it kind of makes me want to do an encounter card talk. Grant and I did some encounter card talk. Kind of makes me want to do it a little more. Maybe after we get through all the whole card pool. Yeah,
actually, I got an idea for that. But yeah, okay. So, any other?
I think that's all we'll tackle here.
I think we'll leave it there, right? We'll just let people sit on their worst treacheries. And hey, if there's some treacheries we missed, we'd love to hear from you. So send us an email or comment on YouTube or Discord or wherever it is you're getting the notice that we blast out to people. And by we, I mean Dave. And let us know. I actually be really curious, because I'm sure there's lots of stuff we didn't name, right? Because how many treachery cards are there in the entire card pool? There's a lot.
Right.
So, but
then, so everybody join us on Friday. So the last episode of Superlative February, we're gonna talk about we'll talk about the attachments and events in lore, but then we're going to talk about the saga. I figured I would save the sagas for last. And this is where we're going to have some surprising, I think that it'll be surprising, funny results here. It'll be kind of interesting. So we're going to talk about all of that, and we will do that on Friday. So join us again as we talk about more superlatives in this month of February. Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube, and there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.